quickly with my own intro. So my name is Tanya Bragin, as Brian mentioned. I'm head of product at ClickHouse. Some of you, or maybe many of you, know me if you're a ClickHouse user or if you're a customer. We had a great event here yesterday. So thank you, first of all, for being at the meetup and being such an engaged community. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Lauren. This is actually kind of something we don't frequently do at meetups, but we'll start doing more often, which is inviting perspectives from various parts of the industry in addition to our own user base. And Lauren is somebody in particular that I've been following and engaging with. And I thought it would be really great to have somebody here to kind of share with us what they're seeing on the data engineering front from many companies. And so, again, for those of you maybe that have been following Lauren like I have and seen her writing, she is a long-time data practitioner and a consultant who advises companies on various strategies around their data stack. So she sees a lot of different deployments, a lot of different companies who do things right, who do things maybe not so well, right? And it's just a really interesting conversation to be having about what's happening in our industry, what's working, and what's not. So first of all, thank you, Lauren, for making it out. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you mind maybe starting with a little bit about your background? Again, I just mentioned a few things, but I think you'd be better positioned to kind of share how you, first of all, started, being somebody who's in a data space, an analyst, and how did you start your own consulting company? This is another question a lot of people are wondering, like, how do you move maybe from a career perspective from being a practitioner to being a consultant and advisor? So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. But do we plug the goose first?
Well, we can, actually.
Yeah. So one of my things here is, there's a certain company. I don't want to plug or deplug any companies specifically up here, but in 2023, I would go to these events, and everywhere it was duck this and duck that. And there were ducks everywhere. And it was duck your mother, duck you, duck me, mother duck this. And I said it, but, and so I said, Tanya and your CEO had reached out to me and said, yeah, you want to speak at this event? And I go, well, yeah, but, can we do something that's not duck focused? And so we have a bunch of goose shirts here because what is cooler than a duck? What is smarter, stronger, better, more powerful than a duck? It's a goose. There's a bunch of them over there. You can get them, pick them up on your way out. But 2023, a lot of duck influencing going on. 2024, I'm making this the goose. This is the year of the goose. It's a ClickHouse goose. But yeah, a little bit about my background, right? So I worked as a data engineer analyst for a number of years in my 20s. 2019, right before the pandemic, I got to a point and I said, you know what? I've always been entrepreneurial. I hate working for somebody else. I don't want to have a boss. I'm going to start my own company and consult for people. And then I have 10 bosses, which are all my customers. And, I was born in 1990, so I was 29-ish at the time. And I, went off and started an LLC, said, I'm going to take everything I know about data engineering, Redshift and Snowflake and Kafka. And, I know all the BI tools. I could, some people love engines. Some people love fishing. I love BI. I actually love BI tools and databases more than anything. That is my motor. Everyone's dad likes to work on the car or whatever. I like working on databases. And I could go deep on any of these things and I love it. And I still do it. And I will always do it. Just go very deep and find the gotchas in any of these things. And I'm going to take what I love and start a business around it. I said, all right, I'm just going to quit my job and be done with it. And I guess I got to go find a customer now because I quit my job. Told my boss, hey, see you later. In a little bit harsher words, maybe. But all right, what do I do now? Right? How do I find some customers? So I started networking with people. Found everyone kind of has the same data problems everywhere. Most of the time, they're business problems, right? We're at a developer event here. everyone always, oh, like here's the difference between ClickHouse, Snowflake, and MotherDoc, and blah, blah, blah. If you don't know how many customers you have, and if your SQL logic is wrong in all three of them, it doesn't really matter, right? And if it takes 6 people to get to an answer, it doesn't really matter, right? And so I worked, with a number of companies across finance, healthcare, a lot of e-commerce companies. There are a million e-commerce companies out there. They're all doing basically the same thing, selling on Shopify, another couple channels, figuring out like how to, set up some basic data for them, clean up what they've done wrong. And that's what I've done the last couple of years. And I have gotten to a point, where I did this from 2019 to about 2023, still doing it, have kind of gotten away from that a little bit. And now I, will help people who want to do the same thing. People have a bunch of questions, and when we do a Q&A later, ask me any questions you have about starting your own business or, moving and going forward with your own thing, and how that works.
Yeah, very inspiring. I think maybe this is a good kind of transition point to what have you seen, right? Because I was a consultant myself before, and this is where I started my career. Before I went into product management, I was a consultant with Deloitte. And the nice thing about consulting is you get to see, as Lauren has, many customers, and then you start seeing patterns, right? And as a product person now, I sometimes don't see it. Which is why I need industry perspective from folks like Lauren and others in the ecosystem that, again, see a lot of different situations and kind of start pattern matching. So maybe based on that, what have you seen, if you would like to boil it down, just like in terms of things that are working for data teams out there or developers working kind of with data platforms, and what is not working? What are some of the things that you kind of see are just like repeatedly broken?
Right. So, some people call me a negative person, but the reason you wouldn't hire me or someone like me if everything was peachy. Right? You wouldn't hire, and I like to joke about if you've seen the movie Pulp Fiction, they got to call him the wolf, right? If you know Pulp Fiction, they accidentally, kill the guy in the back of the car and, oh God, what do we do with this dead body now? They got to call him the wolf, right? You got to call the big mob boss and bring the wolf in. And so, I have number one problem, the people are not trained and they don't know what they're doing, who have a title of blah, blah, blah engineer, data engineer, analytics engineer, analyst, or anything. They're just not trained. And there's been a lot of title bloat in the last couple of years, I think. Not everywhere, but there are some companies. And, there are people who don't know how to react. Things are wrong everywhere. The second problem is cloud costs out of control. We've got Vantage here. We're going to, Vantage is going to speak later. I'm very excited for Vantage. They probably beat the drum harder on cloud costs and cloud FinOps and financial management than anyone other than me. But there's people who, will go ahead and, oh, what's materialization? I don't know what that means. Oh, well, we got Snowflake. Let's just go, run materializations all day long for dashboards that are looked at once a month. And very quickly, you see this combinatorial exponential problem of you've got, 5,000, then 6,000, then 7,000, then 8,000 DBT models. And they all just start, adding up over and over again. And the CFO comes and says, well, guys, we want to know how many customers clicked the button and then converted, to buy our product. It's been a year. Don't we have that? And these companies, we've got 8,000 DBT models. And so, right, well, that's just a more expensive way of not having the answer. And people laugh, and I'm very critical of DBT, and I was very critical of Hadoop back in the day. And then people, I think everyone knows, oh, Hadoop, that's that crazy thing we used years ago, and now we're DBT. Maybe we shouldn't go so crazy with it. That's the stage we're in now. This whole cloud data warehouse thing has been very cool. But a lot of folks are not doing it well. So that FinOps financial management aspect of that is another big piece. And I would say to anyone who's a manager of a team, director, VP, man, whatever, and you have people reporting to you, like everybody on the team should know, at least like on a weekly or monthly basis, do it in a weekly stand-up if you don't want to make it live all the time, what the costs are of what you're doing, right? And like a lot of companies, like it's a little bit like, oh, only management can know that. And then you have individual contributors who will go build something and then not know how expensive it is. And I always advise in every single one of these scenarios of companies I go into, like, we have to make that like part of the culture. Like every week or month, like to not make these costs go, you know, at some exponential curve, right? You know, Big O is something that, you know, if you took a CS program in college, you learned Big O. Not every, you know, some people didn't take CS in college. I didn't take CS in college. I'm self-studied on all this. But Big O is something that people learn, and it's part of what you have to know. And that is something that is coming back now. And it's cool again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're referring to, right? Like when you're dealing with analytical data, this is big data, right? I mean, this is data that grows over time, that just multiplies. And yeah, you have to be financially responsible with it. I mean, I know because I build a SaaS product on top of a lot of data. And you're right, like I can't just forget about costs because, you know, then my pricing is going to be either, you know, too low or just will not make sense for my customers. Same with data engineering teams. You're just building for internal customers. It's the same cost structure comes in. But maybe this is a good kind of transition to like, so what I started following you, Lauren, when I read your blog called Customer Empathy is Dead. And this was just, you know, a great.
Who did I get mad at in that one? That was Mother Duck.
I think it's,
Yeah. I got a couple Snowflake ones, Mother Duck one.
That's right. That's the one. Yeah. Well, and it was interesting because it was thought provoking, right? Because again, Mother Duck came out with a blog called Big Data is Dead. Thought provoking, interesting. Like there are a lot of conversations about it. I'm like, it's not dead. Like I'm at ClickHouse. I can tell you right now, it is not dead. Okay. And we don't differentiate. We want small data, medium data, and big data in ClickHouse. But I can tell you it is far from dead. I'm like, am I the only one who sees that? Then I see your blog. I'm like, Lauren sees it. Thank goodness. Somebody sees it. So I love that blog. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get your perspective on this. It's kind of interesting to start reasoning about where should data be analyzed? Like, what is the value of local analytics versus embedded analytics? And I guess just, yeah, like, what's your perspective? Like, is big data dead? Should it be dead? Like, what do you think?
Well, first of all, calling things dead, very much alive, and will stay alive because we work in an industry where all this VC money has to constantly turn over and turn over and turn over. And so, you know, oh, this VC firm raised fund number 2. Okay, well, all the stuff in fund number 1 that's dead now. Okay. And we raised fund number 3. Oh, well, all the stuff in fund number 2 is dead now.
So nothing's ever dead.
Yeah, nothing's dead. It's just constant, you know, life cycle of, you know, it's like Michael Jackson Thriller video. It's kind of dead. It's kind of alive. We don't know. Michael Jackson, rest in peace. I don't know who's dead and who's alive. But like ThoughtSpot, they're a BI tool. And they kind of led this AI, NLP search stuff. They've been talking about the dashboard being dead for a long time. They lead with it. Like when I fly to San Francisco, a couple of years, last time I flew there, I think it was right before the pandemic or maybe right after it started. But, you know, you get off at the San Francisco airport and then, you know, it's like a 20-minute ride into the city in your Uber or taxi or whatever. And there's a bunch of, you know, I always like to see what the what's it called? The billboards are.
Billboards, yeah.
Right. And there's always a single store one. That's dead. And I'm sorry if anyone works for single store. I'm just kidding around. But I remember when it was MemSQL. That's dead. The ThoughtSpot had, you know, I think about dashboards are dead. They had a graveyard. I remember, like, you know, I got off the plane. You know, I'm a plane drinker. I was very drunk, and I go, "Oh man, the dashboards are dead. They're not dead. Like, I'm coming out here for a dashboard convention. What are you talking about, dog? It's not." And you know, they hammered it down. Dashboards are dead. They're all dead. And then they went out and they bought Mode.
And now they're not dead. The dashboards are alive.
Mode. So when Instacart went public last year. Like everyone, I love Instacart. I'm a big fan of Instacart. Big user of Instacart. I don't like leaving my house. Instacart he's a big Frank Slootman, who's former CEO of Snowflake. Rest in peace, Frank. He
Poor guy.
The Instacart has them on their board, and they're a big customer of Snowflake. And because there's a disclosure there, it's the same guy, we need to disclose it. They, put out, here's how much we pay Snowflake, and here's our Snowflake setup. They had 8,000 Mode dashboards that they made in 6 months.
Yeah.
So the dashboard is very alive at Instacart, one of these big companies that's around here now. And that's not dead at all. So calling things dead or alive makes no sense to me. Whenever someone says something's dead, I say it's alive. I like to be a contrarian. If someone says something's alive, I'll say it's dead, just to start a debate. But so this big data thing here, just look at the numbers here. Databricks is doing very well. Databricks is a private company, but they're going to go public at some point. Everyone kind of knows that. They've started putting up their financials and putting up their numbers, which I think is a good thing for a company to do that ahead of time. They're making billions of dollars a year. And Snowflake makes billions of dollars a year. Google Cloud, which is even bigger than Snowflake, makes billions of dollars a year. So they're not doing this on small data. They're doing this on big data. So how can big data be dead? And when I think, Mother Duck and other folks say big data is dead, what they mean is that a lot of think about everything as a funnel. Your marketing data, your click data is very top of funnel. But your transaction, who's paying you, who's making an invoice, who's swiping their credit card, that's very bottom of funnel, right? And that's always going to be smaller than people who are doing other bigger things at the time. And, a lot of companies get by on Excel. Most of the economy is run on Excel. And it's run locally on Excel. And that's how the world works. And that's how most of the Fortune 500 closes their books. And all of you who have retirement funds, IRAs, 401ks, you're investing in stocks that are a bunch of companies that close their books on, Microsoft Excel. So, big data is not dead though.
Makes sense. Yeah. Well, that makes sense to me. Because again, ClickHouse, now there's an in-process version of ClickHouse, CHCP, naturally evolved in the community, right? And so this is something that we see as well. Sort of big data eventually becomes small data when an individual needs to look at it. So I completely agree. But you mentioned this ad tech space. And so I wanted to maybe, before we open it up for questions from the audience, just to ask you about another topic that you recently started blogging about, which I can very much relate to, which is topic of identity on the internet and ad tech and how we all get targeted. We all get targeted. We all know. If you're on your phone right now, you're probably getting targeted.
You're going to get targeted by ClickHouse a lot after coming to this.
No. But, for me, again, a little bit of personal sort of story. I have an 11-year-old daughter who's into crafts, and she watches craft videos on YouTube. And somehow YouTube has categorized her as, it must have categorize her as a middle-aged female because she constantly gets ads for retirement plans and menopause medicine, and she's like, "What is that?" Like very. So, but anyways, the point is, it's not very perfect technology. And Lauren's been blogging on this and sharing her views, and I would love maybe for you to comment on this a little bit because I found it very thought-provoking, and maybe we can then transition to audience questions.
Yeah, sure. So, one of my big things that I'm beating the drum about is identity on the internet, and who are you, and what do companies know about you or not know about you? What are these evil hedge funds who buy all of your data in aggregate and trade on that information know about you? And I've worked in that a little bit, and that's a very scary space. And then someone I met earlier here, I know he works in that space too, and I was like, "Oh, hey, you're that guy from a couple of years ago," but we did that shady thing together. I don't know if he's still here though, but identity on the internet right now is run by data brokers, and people know the two big ones are Epsilon and Axiom, and they've run ad tech and identity on the internet for the last decade plus. And what that means is that when you everyone's talking about the cookie's dead now. If you go on LinkedIn, doesn't matter who you are, you're a developer, you're a marketer, someone on LinkedIn or on Twitter or whatever is even talking about the cookie being dead. The cookie's dead now. You say, all right, well, what the heck does that mean if you don't know in space? Cookie's dead. No, the cookie's really dead, right? 5 minutes ago, the ThoughtSpot was calling dashboards dead. Now the cookie's dead, right? But the cookie's actually going away. The cookie is what strings together your identity on the internet throughout all these different services. And Apple has done a lot to, own this and drive this cookie away. We're on the last vestiges right now of Google Chrome and a couple other platforms of having this cookie. And it's so bad right now for everybody but the data brokers. The data brokers are sitting back there with their big cigars, their fancy champagne. They've been running this game for 15 years. They know it's going away. They're not going to respond to it. So what do we do next, right? I think that the way to do this is to say, let's not have Tanya's 11-year-old daughter have the internet and all these companies who are getting this 11-year-old's data sold to them think that she's a menopausal 40-year-old woman getting sold hot flash pads or whatever. Let's actually set up this layer where brands can talk to customers, right? And the obvious example here is when I go on vacation or something, and I don't know what the restaurants are in a town. I don't know what's cool to go do in a town. You can read your guidebook. You can talk to a concierge. But wouldn't the hotel love to own that? And wouldn't you as the customer actually like to share your data with that hotel? And you can expand this out to your favorite retail brands. If you want to share data about yourself, you should have instead of just everything about you getting shared, you pick what you share with brands, and then they share that, they give you an experience delivered through prompts, delivered through AI to ask you about what you like, what you want, give you rewards, loyalty and rewards programs. That's where the internet's going to go. And that's what has to be done. And nobody's talking about this at all.
We're starting to happen in many ways, even social media platforms like Facebook, right? They're starting to you can basically choose what kind of ads you receive, right? And it's the beginnings of sort of declaring this, I'm such and such, and I am interested in so and so. I've accepted that on Facebook I'm going to get ads, but at least now I'm getting travel ads, and I love travel, so it's great. I'm getting all kinds of ideas. And to me, I completely agree. I think if we're going to be targeted, we may as well be in control of that process, right? As opposed to it being so serendipitous and imperfect.
Sure. I would even add that, let's take Facebook out of the equation. Let's take the middleman out. You book something with a hotel. I'm just using the hotel example. Why does Facebook need to be involved? Right? It's not a threesome here. It's just you in the hotel.
That's right.
You're just going to have a good time in the hotel, right? You don't need a third party in there.
Okay, very good. On that note, I'm curious if anybody in the audience wants to ask some questions. We have a question back there. I don't know if we have a microphone.
Yeah.
Let's start over there.
Sorry, pointing right there.
Right there?
Oh, right there. Okay.
There's then several hands that went up.
Thank you so much. My name is Jay, and you said something earlier, and I have a why question that, and it probably doesn't have a simple answer, but I'm curious for your perspective. Before starting my company, I have experienced the exact problem, or one of the problems that you talked about, where a product manager just wants to know how many people click the button, and yet it's always impossible to get that information to them for one reason or another, especially to a big company. Why is that so hard? Why are we so bad at answering these simple questions for CT of how much money do we make or how many people do we make?
Yeah, you want to take that first, or you?
Well, so I can tell you maybe, from the perspective that I have right now at ClickHouse, and then maybe this is skewed. We of course use ClickHouse for our internal data warehouse, and because it's so good as RAM folks were sharing, as storing the granular data. All of our data points go into ClickHouse, and as long as it makes it there, we can answer those questions. But actually, the biggest challenge we have is one of integrating that data and getting it in that high fidelity state into ClickHouse in the first place. Like that's where the majority of our efforts are going. But I'm curious, Lauren, again, this is just like one example. You probably can kind of match from many examples.
Yeah, I'm going to just rattle some off here. So number one is the fact that like systems that are built with a Postgres backend, and I think the talk earlier got into this, and so good job, Ram, for bringing it up. But it's normalization, right? Like an OLTP is usually normalized at the level of whatever event is being described, or at least good practices tell us that's how they should be built. But analytics should be built for denormalization, which often means a wide table, or one big table, OBT, or the BAT, the big ass table. Right? You just make your table wide. You describe the ontology of what's happening, like, click. This person did this. This person did this. Everything has a timestamp on it. You can make a funnel out of it. Done. Right? And I think a lot of the normalization and denormalization problems just need to be brought more like out front and out to light, because most businesses can solve most of their analytics problems describing the businesses and how the business works with wide tables. And then, there's activity schema, narrator, that guy, Ahmed, who's running it, has a lot of opinions on this. Yeah, that's how this should work. And that plays nicely with ClickHouse, to plug ClickHouse.
Thank you for the question. Yeah. More questions? I saw a couple of other hands go up. There's one over here. Oh, we'll get to you. Sorry. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks. So how do you see companies balancing between traditional OLAP databases like Snowflake and ClickHouse, which is like a real-time OLAP database? Do you see the real-time OLAP databases replacing the traditional ones?
Yeah, so that's very funny. I would call it funny that you call Snowflake traditional, because they would destroy you if you called them traditional. But because they're the cool new guys in town, and that's what they tell Wall Street every quarter. It's true. But the real time, like I'm a big bear on Snowflake. People who know me know, I've written up blog posts about how I'm shorting the stock. I don't care. I'm doing well. They fired Sleepman a couple weeks ago. Whatever. Snowflake makes a lot of money on batch. They charge a tax. Like, you have to think of Snowflake like a tax. And every little thing you do in Snowflake just runs that compute up. And the problem is when you deal with, if you're a small company and you're just doing simple stuff, it doesn't really matter. If you're a big company and you're running these 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 like SQL CTEs written on their own or with DBT or whatever, there's a bunch of ways you can go nuts on this. It just makes this like combinatorial complexity. And I've had customers who they spend $100,000 one year, and the second year they spend $200,000. And so then I'll say, well, all right, well, what are you going to spend the next year? And they'll say, well, 1, 2, it's going to be 300,000. I go, no, it's going to be 400,000. Then the year after that, it's going to be 800,000. That's just to run what you have now. And so there's a lot of I would call it problems with batch. And I think that slowing this down is how Snowflake's been able to make, a lot of money and be successful. And a lot of people are successful with Snowflake. If you just want reports, every hour, every 5 minutes, every whatever, it can be a solution for that. But real time is where things are going. And there's really no reason that things shouldn't be close to real time, especially if you're building it yourself, especially if you have a team of data engineers, analysts, data scientists. There's really no reason, I think, as ClickHouse gets better, as other competitors to ClickHouse get better, that things can't be very close to real time, and then you don't pay this tax to Snowflake. So and if you want to look at some examples, I can tell you, I know several customers who have just switched off of Snowflake, gone back to Postgres. They said, why do we have Snowflake? The whole reason Snowflake exists is because with Postgres databases, if you want to make a read replica, you can't put an index on a read replica. And it seems to me like that's the whole reason Snowflake exists. And I say, ha ha, you figured out the whole game. So, there's a lot of things going on out there. Snowflake's going to keep distributing. They're a fine company, but real time is where things are going to go. Long answer to a simple question.
Yeah, thank you for the question. All right, I think I saw a hand over here in the front. Is there anybody in between? Or all right.
Yeah, thank you very much for the talk. Yeah, I have one question. So you mentioned you're critical of DBT. And the question is what would you suggest as an alternative, especially when you go ClickHouse, one big table and so on and so on, where data is pretty dirty and cleaned up on models before it goes to the dashboard?
Yeah. So I think that the most critical thing I say about DBT is the distribution. And what I mean by that is every product is a product, and it's the distribution, it's the go-to-market, it's like events like we're at now, like talking about ClickHouse and other stuff. But there's so many cases just all over the place where, I'll get called, hey, Lauren, our dashboard takes an hour to load. CFO or something or VP of something or other, calls me in and, hey, you want to come look at this? I'll give someone, sign an NDA. I'll go look at something for an hour. And most of the time it's because there are just ample DBT models referencing each other. And I think that the tool is fine if you use it properly, but a lot of folks are building these multiple layers of this stuff. And, it goes right back to, it's just extra compute. It's extra runtime, on whatever CPU cycle you're running it on, whether it's Snowflake or someone else. And eventually you get to a point where you don't need that many models. And if you make tables, if you're using DBT to end up at a very wide table and you have 5 or 6 steps to get there, you need to cut those steps and get to that table as soon as possible and not have intermediate layers in there, because that's what adds up and makes this combinatorial complexity that happens. And it's I don't know, I think my thing is it's kind of frustrating because I don't think the company themselves have done a great job of explaining this to people, but it's what happens. And you should be aware of it. And if you have junior employees working on this or analysts who, maybe they know SQL, but they don't know infra, they don't know Python, they don't know C or Java or whatever you're using, I don't know, make sure they're not going out of control with it.
If I could add to it. So I don't think the problem is DBT itself. In fact, I'm quite positive on the concepts that DBT has out there, right? Take best practices from software engineering, bring it into data engineering community. I think it's great. It's not really the tool, it's how you use it. With programming language, even the most efficient programming language, C++, you can still write an inefficient algorithms, right? You can still misuse it, right? So just like with DBT, we have a DBT connector to ClickHouse. When we were writing it, we thought a lot about how should you really use DBT with ClickHouse? And you shouldn't be constantly recalculating models in ClickHouse. So we have worked with our user community to kind of train them not only that this connector exists, but how do you use it? What is an efficient way to use it? So I think that's maybe the message, right? The tool is actually quite powerful. You can use it for kind of both good and bad best practices. And there should be kind of an education out there with something as powerful as DBT on what is an effective and efficient way to use it. So that's kind of how I kind of hear it.
Sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for the question. So great. One more question. I saw it quite ahead of the back there. Yeah.
Thanks for a great talk, Lauren. So I had a question similar to Tanya. I also love your content and followed it for a long time. And I have a question on that side of things. I'm kind of curious, how much time do you dedicate to it? How do you decide what to write? How is it always kind of so engaging? Is there a process there, or is it just kind of a stream of consciousness that happens to be?
No, whatever's bothering me that day is what I'll write about. But no, like, I mean, I think like databases are cool, like, and data's cool. And, you know, I say this as someone wearing some vendor socks of, I don't even know what company up here, wearing a goose shirt. Like, I'm not very cool as a person wearing a goose shirt and these weird socks. But data's very cool because, I mean, it's what makes the whole world work. Everything runs on a database. The jobs that people have working with data are very lucrative, and it's very cool. And there's things that are wrong, there's things that are right about, like, you know, the way I think the industry works or the way I think things should work. And, you know, that's, well, if I have an opinion on something, I'll share it. And, you know, a lot of people like will message me, and, you know, every time someone's like, Lauren, evil, blah, 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 I'll get like 5 emails that are like, yes, like, you know, I learned that, like, I shouldn't make 5,000 DBT models. And we actually did this project in 3 weeks. We got rid of 1,000 of them. And we cut our bill, and we got rid of Fivetran, and now we're using something else. And I go, yes, right? Like, that's, you know, cut the costs, right? Cut the costs, make it simple. Everything should be flowing as easily as possible, right? It's like, it's one big digestive system, right? If you're backed up, you got problems. Like, you know, everything should just flow through easily. And, you know, that's why I love ClickHouse. Makes things flow through easily. It's real time. Tanya's going to wring my neck, but, you know, that's what I think about things.
Well, that's wonderful, though. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much. Ryan, I don't know if you're going to come up and
Yeah.
introduce the speaker.